Good evening, boils and ghouls, and welcome to our 2025 Halloween special. Evan and I are thrilled and pleased to present you with an episode sure to chill you to the bone.
It's a good one, and we're sure you'll enjoy it. But before we get too deep into it, there's a small bit of information we need to share with you all in the interest of open and honest reporting.
It's tiny.
Not a big thing at all, really.
Hardly worth mentioning. I advised against it.
But I felt you ought to know that we've been abducted.
Kidnapped.
Shanghaied, as it were.
Taken captive. And are now, currently and presently at the time of recording, being held against our will by forces most foul.
In a dungeon most dark.
By two truly monstrous villains.
A duo of morally bankrupt miscreants.
A perfidious pair with a devious air.
A partnership of a nature most peculiar and vile.
Our evil ex-girlfriends got us.
Yeah, they got us good too, yeah.
It turns out that despite our best efforts at maintaining our anonymity,
And keeping our routines and locations a secret from even our closest of confidants.
we are not immune to scrutiny, if the observer is keen and their desires nefarious.
And these two are nothing if not keen and nefarious.
You see, back in 2014, I was dating a brilliant scholar of esoteric religions at Miskatonic University named Rosie, known to her colleagues and readers of niche publications as Dr. Rosie Crucian.
And I was engaged in a brief but torrid entanglement with a beautiful and mysterious woman named Sarah Ann. She was a writer of occult mysteries. You may know her nom de plume, Essay Credon.
Now, during this period, Evan and I were roommates.
We lived in a distant and eerie place where a palpable pall of darkness and despair hung heavy in the air, and the psychosphere was thick with the stifled screams of a thousand unkept promises. The cobbled streets were slick with an ancient rhyme, and the alehouses stunk in both real and metaphysical terms. A man was as soon to clasp your hand as he was to place a knife betwixt your shoulder blades, and a kiss from the most buxom doxy would set your teeth on edge and your milk to curdle. It was a dismal place, where the unwashed tattooed limbs of many a misshapen fish-mouthed mariner would grasp and claw.
We lived in Innsmouth, like from Lovecraft.
Yeah, we both liked it, to be honest.
But our lovers did not like each other, it must be said.
Indeed, they were foes from the start, yeah.
Their only mutuality, or so it seemed at the time, was in a deep hatred of us, your humble hosts.
Or so it seemed at the time. And nothing would cause them more anger and incite a more fearsome caterwauling than when Cameron and I would start chopping it up, history style, you know?
We would often huddle in our slanting hovel and imbibe copious quantities of foul, malodorous grogs and tonics, and inhale the devilish vapors of potent herbs and alchemic powders, and spend hours just, riffing about our favorite persons and deeds of the past and present.
Much like we do here, in fact, you know?
Yeah, indeed. And while their opposition to this entirely wholesome and mentally nourishing pastime could prove vexing, it never seemed more than an annoyance. So when finally we left...
Both the Port of Innsmouth and these two slovenly shrews.
Well, Rosie was slovenly.
And Sarah Ann had a shrew.
Right. And when we finally left, while they hurled curses and invective at us, we did not look back, which I thought was rather studly of us.
Yeah, I think it'd be safe for anyone to say that we both handled those specific breakups maturely and with a certain quiet dignity that belied our youth.
Well put. That feels correct and true to life. So we left, and as time wore on, we built this humble podcast together, and there have been more lives lived and loves lost. And as the years have lengthened, the thought of our capital E evil ex-girlfriends began to fade, and they began to feel more like our lowercase e evil ex-girlfriends.
Until this past week, when I began to receive a mysterious anonymous missives in our email inbox, leftunreadpod@gmail.com. You can hit us on the line there, where all inquiries, requests, and vitriol are welcome.
Now, to me, it just looked like wingdings.
But my computer can render the proper ancient runic fonts, and I soon realized that we were receiving a set of coordinates to an ancient temple of the elder god Glugulegg-Jeffrey.
One of the lesser-known ancient evil deities, to be sure.
Body of a man, head of a big sucker fish.
Yeah, he definitely sounds gross. But still an exciting prospect for two independent podcasters such as ourselves. The Temple of Glugulegg-Jeffrey had long been rumored to be located in the dark and distant marshlands of the misbegotten rump state known as Rhode Island.
Yeah, and since everything here is like 20 minutes away, give it take, maybe a little bit more, but we decided to go check it out.
However, when we arrived at the coordinates in the email, our car suddenly died. And as we debated how best to handle this, admittedly, sort of played out scenario, there was a knock at the driver's side window.
Followed by a shattering of glass. Two-footed figures broke into the vehicle, bludgeoning Cam and I with clubs, after which we knew no more.
When we awoke, we were inside this vast cavern, dimly lit by an ethereal green glow. We'd been bound to ancient, creaking chairs, and before us was podcasting equipment.
Beyond that was a large and hideous altar carved in the graven image of the slurping fish god, Glugulegg-Jeffrey. We were within the temple itself.
It was then that our hooded captors stepped out of the shadows and revealed themselves. It was our two evil ex-girlfriends, Rosie Crucian and S.A. Credon.
I'll admit it, we guessed.
After all the usual stuff,
So, how have you been? Seeing anyone? You look good.
they revealed their intentions. You see, it turns out that they had been worshippers of the ancient cult of Glugulegg-Jeffrey all along, and had seen within us the long prophesied capacity for the composition of the unholy, sacred Halloween history riff.
An important part of the rite of Glugulegg-Jeffrey, the sacred riff, will arise when two dudes, much like ourselves, share betwixt them a series of 4 short snippets of spooky history. Not long enough to make an entire episode about, but perfect for a fun holiday special. And then record them in a preferred audio file format.
Like WAV or MP3.
And then they release it, and if it gets 666 downloads,
Or more.
the damp and sucking maw of Glugulegg-Jeffrey will once again cling to the filthy, algae-encrusted windows that separate the aquarium of our reality from the vast expanse of the multiverse, revealing the madness that surrounds us and plunging the Earth into eternal darkness, metaphorically speaking.
Which would be bad. Or good, if you like that sort of a scenario.
So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to sit here in this evil temple and trade stories about spooky history, and usher in the end times so that our evil
And cleverly named.
ex-girlfriends don't kill us. That's the episode. Welcome to Left Unread.
Welcome everybody. Thank you.
Sure is dank in here.
Yeah, it's dank and dark and spooky in this big cave. And luckily, they gave us a little time to do some research and put a couple of things together.
Yeah, we've been inhaling some very concerning looking mold.
Yeah,
that I feel like has opened up our third eye quite well. So
yeah, my pineal.
Our
like
pineal
that movie
gland
you
is
told me
erupting forth like in Jeffrey Combs and From Beyond.
Yeah, it's like a little dick.
Yeah, just ready to suckle upon the teats of Barbara Crampton. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. Dude.
We're totally doing that, and
yanking on
not
each other's
something
pineal gland.
incredibly lame and nerdy. So we're chilling with baddies from B movies. So
Yeah, B-movie baddies. That's could have been a good team name for them. I mean, they're real. This is all real, so
Yeah.
I should propose that to our evil.
Be reality baddies, maybe. Yeah, be reality.
Yeah. Well, I guess since we're here to usher in the end times, in honor of this All Hallows Eve, we should get started. And we each chose a couple of shorter little historical topics that are kind of spooky and Halloween related to share with you guys today, but also kind of sort of related to things that we have talked about on this show before. So there's a little tie in there. So I guess I'll get started. Can you see the picture there?
Yeah. Kind of looks like you.
Yeah, dude. For my first tale, the Onryo. So for my first ghostly tale, I will recount for you the legend of the Japanese Onryo. It's a type of yurei, or ghost. And an Onryo is said to be the departed spirit of one who died with such a strong, enduring, and passionate feeling of anger, or hatred, or resentment, that their spirit is unable to move on after death. Mm-hmm. The most famous depiction of an Onryo in the West is probably Kayako, the freaky, clicking, crawling gal from Ju-On, or The Grudge. Like that, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, doing like her little vocal fry.
Yeah. Between that and the
it kind of sounds like the girl from that one podcast.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that like that, what do they call them? Okay. Dasha. Yeah, that's actually totally accurate. It's almost like they predicted that trend, that like horrifying
it's the vocal fry ghost. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just waifish, pale-skinned women.
You have no idea how many of these are sprawling across the California landscape.
No, I'm sure it's incalculable. So you might know them from there, or like just think that like that kind of withered, freaky, long-armed, misshapen ghost. Actually, not always women. Now, the more popular depictions became women, but as you'll see in a moment, Onryo were not always women. In fact, earlier Onryo are often men. But also, you may know this, maybe you're like me, you're playing the game Ghost of Yotei, where the protagonist, Atsu, is called the Onryo by her enemies. Onryo are driven by one desire and one desire only. Vengeance. They want to wreak vengeance upon the person who in life wronged them and caused them to bear this horrible burden emotionally that they were so overtaken by that they weren't able to move on, and they were forced to cling to this life as an evil spirit.
Some might say they held a grudge.
They held the ground. Generally considered one of the most fearsome of the spirits in Japanese mythology for their ability to inflict real-world suffering or death upon their victims, Onryo tend to prefer targeting the loved ones of those they seek vengeance upon first, letting their most hated enemies live long lives filled with tortured suffering. So, for example, they might infect a tape that when you watch it, you have 7 days before you die. I gotta watch. Those movies are pretty good. Like Ring.
I haven't watched them since I was in like high school.
Yeah, I think I was like 13 or 12, and I watched The Ring, and I was so scared. And afterwards, I was like, you know what? It's just a movie, and it kind of cured my childhood terrors a little bit. But,
I watched Child's Play with my dad when I was like 6 years old or something like that, and that shit fucked me up for years.
I used to think that movie was so fucking scary as a kid.
Yeah, dude.
And then going back and watching it now,
it's it's a horror comedy. Yeah, it's a horror comedy.
Child's Play is fantastic, but it's like not at all scary. Like
but when you're like a 6-year-old, all of a sudden you're like, my toys are killing.
Oh,
folks.
you mean when you're like still surrounded by toys that look like that, and
exactly
you're the little boy in the movie trying to the doll.
I would be sitting there like waiting for like I had this gigantic teddy bear I won in a raffle once, and I would just be sitting there at night. I'm like, I know he's gonna do it.
He's gonna do it. Today's the day. So I had a My Buddy doll, which is what the Good Guy dolls were based on.
Yeah.
And before I even knew, and then obviously after that movie, he started to seem a little creepy to me.
I wonder why. Yeah,
because they were, what is it? Good Guys? Is that what they're called in Child's Play? I think so. Anyway. So they like to lash out and create havoc amongst the loved ones of those that have wronged them. Occasionally, in addition to the classics, vengeance, anger, hatred, An onryo can arise as a result of unrequited love, which can often be twisted into a hateful jealousy, which is perhaps the most fearsome type of onryo to encounter, because there's sort of a charged sexual energy there. Ooh. Our evil ex-girlfriends are likely somewhere in this category.
Is there a Mr. Onryo?
Yeah. Ooh. Our evil ex-girlfriends are likely somewhere in this category, though I should say that quietly to you, lest they seek to punish us for our transgressions. Perhaps the most famous tale of an onryo in Japan is the Yotsuya Kaidan, which has been the subject of various adaptations. Apparently it's been filmed 30 plus times. There's a couple of adaptations that I actually want to watch from the 50s. While it ostensibly originated with a kabuki play written in 1825 by Tsuruya Nanboku, there are those that claim the origin of the tale is much older and rooted in historical fact. Now, Tsuruya Nanboku, sorry for butchering that, the writer was open about using historical sources in the basis for this. A couple of different, events that sort of combined, mirrored the events of the play. But in the Yotsuya Kaidan, the tale follows a woman named Oiwa, who is the spurned wife of a sort of a third-rate samurai named Iemon, who is no longer happy in their marriage. In fact, he has taken a mistress named Ome. When Oiwa's father confronts him about his infidelity and cheating on his daughter, Iemon conspires to have Oiwa. These names are hard for me.
Well, Oiwa, no, seeing this written before you said it,
it looks like Lemon.
I was like, oh, there's a motherfucker named a samurai named Lemon. Okay.
Yeah, dude. And there's a samurai named Lemon. That's like some anime shit.
Yeah,
where it's like all about fruit, but the fruit are all turned into like hot boys, and they like all have like they're all in love with each other or something.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm Lemon. I'm the sour and tart one.
Yeah.
No, Iemon.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Senpai. So he conspires to have his wife Oiwa poisoned, and she dies a slow, agonizing death, only succumbing to darkness after she's been horribly disfigured by the poisoning. It's a shitty way to go. Like, you have a sword, dog. Like, if you're gonna murder your wife, be nicer about it, So she returns later as a vengeful onryo, to seek retribution against those who have wronged her. Don't blame her. So a lot of the times in these stories, the onryo, despite being like these twisted, scary things, they tend to be sort of sympathetic, especially in the stories that became popular. So this really popularized like the ghost story for the masses in Japan. Prior to this, these were sort of legends that were confined to like the imperial household and stuff. Now, after this became a very popular form of entertainment, a very popular genre. And it's why to this day, I think the Japanese have a really long history of really solid ghost story media. They're good at this shit. They've got their own really unique approach to horror, and it tends to be really effective. So, like, when we got introduced to the onryo story with The Grudge and with The Ring, those movies were the scariest fucking thing on the planet to every kid that I was growing up with. Like, they, like, took the world by storm. So, it obviously there's something there, right? So, the famed ukiyo-e artist, which is like those little woodblock prints that, if you've seen art from this period, it's a good chance you're familiar. An artist named Utagawa Kuniyoshi made a really great, super freaky image of Oiwa from this play, which I included here for Evan. But you should all look up. He said it looked like me. I don't know if I see the resemblance, but if you guys, the receding hairline for sure.
Yeah.
But
no, I meant the freaky little thing she's carrying, the freaky little person. That kind of
she does. She has a doll. Yeah.
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 Like the freaky little thing. Yeah.
It remains to be seen. So yeah, that's like the most classic example of an onryo story. Another famous example of a presumed onryo is more verifiably historical. Prince Sawara, who was one of the sons of an emperor in the 8th century in Japan, so early imperial era, who was slated to become the crown prince when his brother was crowned Emperor Kanmu. Now, in Japan, the line of succession can sometimes, or at least back then, could sometimes be a little murky. So Kanmu didn't want his brother to inherit, and so when he had a son, he had to get his younger brother out of the way. And so he imprisoned him and accused him of some crime that he didn't commit, and Prince Sawara reportedly starved himself to death. That's a pretty hard thing to do, so it sounds like his brother might have killed him. And that sort of is supported by the following events. So a couple years later, after Kanmu's wife and his young son both succumbed and died due to a strange and sudden illness, supposedly as the result of the departed Prince Sawara's ghostly vengeance as an onryo, the dead prince, Sawara, was posthumously elevated back to being crown prince. And then after Emperor Kanmu died, they posthumously declared Sawara emperor. Yeah. So he was, for a time, considered a part of the imperial lineage, even though he died before he was ever able to ascend to the throne. No. But in this way, the imperial family and those around them sought to appease his vengeful spirit so that he would not continue to ravage the line of the emperors with his vengeance. So he got his just desserts even in death. Yeah. Now, that is something that you can do with onryo. As Prince Sawara, along with many other infamous presumed early onryo of the late Yamato, which is sort of the pre-imperial, like, Rice Kingdom period, and then the early imperial eras of Japanese history, who might bear sort of a grudge towards the imperial family for various reasons, they're all enshrined at the Shinsen-sen Temple in Kyoto, where their spirits are still to this day regularly appeased, and rituals are performed to keep them calm and happy to prevent further violence against the Japanese imperial family. So, onryo, in conclusion, are scary. And if you want to avoid creating an onryo, treat everyone around you with kindness. Conversely, if you do not want to spend eternity as a vengeful onryo, work through your feelings. Talk to somebody. Don't hold on to stuff, because that's the stuff that'll really eat you alive. And then you might come back as like a freaky, crawling, clicking, pale-faced motherfucker.
Yeah.
So that's the onryo.
Okay, cool. Very nice.
Hopefully that goes well towards our ritual that we're trying to complete.
Yes, yeah, for his...
May Glugulegg-Jeffrey be pleased with my offering.
Yes, please be pleased. All right, well, next up, folks. Unredheads. It's time to travel back to the early 1970s to the beautiful island of Ireland, as it is ever haunted by the jelly-deal gobbling specter of Great Britain. Now, if you know one thing about the Troubles, which is... I've always loved as a real quintessentially British way to describe civil unrest nearly boiling over into a full-blown civil war. That was when the bad things were happening. Yeah, the Troubles. Yeah.
They were really mad for some reason.
Yeah, they were fucking really pissed at us over there. Anyway, that Northern Ireland was under a state of low-intensity conflict between the Unionists and the Loyalists.
Yeah.
Now, the Loyalists, who were predominantly Protestant... And the Unionists and Loyalists, these were predominantly Protestant. And the Republicans and Irish nationalists, they were predominantly Catholic. And for the Amerifats here at home with us, Republicans in the sense how it doesn't mean like GOP Republicans. Irish Republicans are like oftentimes like quite left-wing, up to and including like Marxist insurgent groups. They just want a unified Republic of Ireland.
Right.
But
they want a republic. Yeah. In place of foreign monarchical rule.
Yeah, they want these people want to unify Ireland. Now, one big difference between these Protestants, which again I should say for our Amerifats here at home, these are very different from American Protestants. Because I could say like these are not.
I mean, some of them are different. We've got some pretty wild strains of Protestantism here in this country. Here.
But what I'm saying is that the Catholics. These Catholics, they tend to believe in some more woo-woo stuff than the Protestants. I would say that's the opposite here in America. I would say the woo-woo stuff is somehow the Protestants beat the Catholics in that over here.
Yes.
You know, with your spirit healing.
This is austere Church of England Protestantism.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
About,
yeah,
folks.
Yeah.
We're talking about a real cheese and crackers level of Protestantism. We're talking a real fucking pie mash and parsley liquor, like a real fucking jellied eels. You know, that type of Protestantism.
Yeah. We're not talking about what's that guy's name? I can't think of his name right now.
You're talking about Tony Soprano?
Stuart Copeland? No, not Stuart Copeland. That's the fucking but the guy Copeland, Copeland. What?
What are you talking about? You talking about actor Greg Kinnear?
No, not him. I mean the megachurch people, the Protestants.
Oh yeah, Stuart Copeland is one of them, and who's the other one?
Stuart Copeland,
the guy with the fucking teeth and the curly hair.
Oh god, yeah, what's his name? I can't remember. The guy who he didn't want to take people into his megachurches during what was that hurricane? What was the one that Houston? Yeah,
apparently Joel Osteen.
Yeah, Joel Osteen. Yeah,
Joel Osteen.
These are different Protestants. Anyway, the Catholics, in Ireland tend to believe some more woo-woo stuff than the Protestants.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I want to discuss here is in the 1970s, specifically the years 72 to 74, British intelligence, which includes MI5, which is like the Internal Security Service, similar to the FBI, and military intelligence, they decided to do some really fucked up things. Which, they already were, but they decided to perform some psychological operations in Northern Ireland, which was aimed at breaking the spirit of the Catholics. Now, what I'm about to discuss, this is not the first instance in the West of an intelligence apparatus engaging in psychic warfare against the religiosity or superstitiousness of an occupied force. The Americans utilized this tactic a number of times. During the CIA-backed coup and genocide in Indonesia in the 1960s to break the strong socialist and communist organizations in that country, there was a coup against the president Sukarno, who wasn't a socialist, but he would at least work with the communists, He was a real people's president. But there was a coup carried out against him, even though he still kind of remained the president, in name only. But this coup was carried out by the 30th of September movement in 1965. And it's really unclear exactly all the details of what happened, but there was a massacre that was carried out on the leadership. Mm-hmm. And it was blamed on the Communist Party of Indonesia, the KPI. After this massacre, the bodies of the slain leaders were mutilated in such a way as to really prey upon rural beliefs about witchcraft and superstition, especially female violence against men and male genitalia.
Yes.
And so this was whether it happened at the time or post-mortem, the dicks and balls of these dudes were heavily fucked with, interfered with. And it was done, and then the whole coup blamed on the KPI, the Communist Party of Indonesia, and the witchcraft shit was done in order to break support for the party from rural Indonesia, because oh shit, they're doing crazy witch dick magic, not to make light of it, because this is an awful thing that happened, but that's basically what the Americans were trying to do.
Right. Shouts out the Jakarta Method.
Jakarta Method by Vincent Bevins. That's where I get all of that.
Yeah. I read that this year. That was a fucking
oh, really? Did you?
Crazy book.
Yeah. Now, similar tactics were used as psychological warfare in Vietnam by the Americans, including they would set up big fucking speakers in the jungle at night and just blast sounds of ghosts and witches and shit into the jungles as a way to scare the locals and to think that they were supernatural spirits on the loose.
Do you think that they just used those the recordings that we all had for Halloween where it was just stock occasionally it would be you
get a Wilhelm screaming.
it would there's gonna be a couple in this fucking episode. You're not gonna edit a couple of Wilhelms in here, dog? I was already thinking about it today. I was like, that'd be a good spot for a Wilhelm scream. I'm sorry, this isn't edited, this is real. We're in a cavern.
Yes, correct, so anyway, this isn't the first time that this has been done, but now these dastardly Brits decided to use the same tactics during the Troubles. So there were these black operations in Northern Ireland, and I saw these British spooks, basically, quite literally spooks at this point, basically channeling black magic and satanic rituals to stage scenes to scare the locals. There were instances of black candles and inverted crosses placed in
Hell
like
yeah.
derelict buildings in Belfast or in ruined houses or abandoned churchyards. They would like set up these magic circles and draw them on the ground, and then they would like take like blood from the army's kitchen and just fucking like spray it all over the scene with these
Yeah.
huge like blood spatter patterns all over the place.
You know who would have loved that, dude? Varg.
Varg. He would have done this shit for. He would have paid to do.
He would have
this
been
shit.
all about that
Yeah.
shit, dude.
Yeah, but so then they would like leak stories to the newspaper about these black masses and satanic rituals taking place across the country. This was during the public fear that followed. You know, at this time, this is really when the Satanic Panic's going on.
Right.
You had all these movies in the late '60s and the early '70s. You had Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, The Devil Rides Out. You got The fucking Omen. Like, possession and Satanism is fucking big right now.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing that's used in like horror movies. And so, you know, you had like a satanic panic going on right now in the West due to these types of movies. And so, you know, Satan, he was on people's minds. And then you also have obviously like bands like Black Sabbath coming out and using satanic imagery a lot. There were other bands at the time. You had the Rolling Stones do like one off album with the whole Satanist imagery and shit like that, where they were trying to like ape the Beatles like LSD sound. But anyway, this is like really big on like older people's minds and whatnot. So the intelligence units here, they would provide scripts for briefings with journalists. They fucking wrote fake letters to the papers, and they helped over religious folks into writing misleading things themselves.
Love that.
Like, just write down what I say right here. There you go, right? And you saw the hooded figure, correct? Yeah, there we go. They even attributed actual murders to black magic, such as when there was a 10-year-old boy named Brian McDermott who was found mutilated and burned in September of 1973, and they tried to attribute that into like a black magic ritual, as opposed to just standard issue violence against children.
Right.
So the purpose of this whole charade was to scare devout Catholics, sympathetic to the cause of the Republicans and whatnot, and to believing that these paramilitary groups of the resistance were unleashing evil, demonic forces onto the countryside. One of the spooks claimed it was done because the paramilitary groups on both sides were deferential in some way to their respective churches, and they hoped that they would listen to the church, and also that it would scare parents into keeping kids and teens in at night. Well, this isn't the perpetrator's own words, of course. So this operation also accompanied the bloodiest years of the Troubles, including the period when Ulster loyalists engaged in ritual torture murder of Catholics themselves. So the actual violence ongoing really matched the story, you know. So some of these were stage scenes, some of these were like Ulster loyalists, like doing actual staging of like torture, like ritual torture on Catholics. Now, of course, we here at Left Unread and Associates are trusting the sources of this information, the psychological operators themselves, when they tell us they were simply doing psychological operations. But are they telling the truth? Was there more going on? Perhaps the violence of the Troubles did unleash some old, long-dormant evil on the island of Ireland. Or perhaps the Brits themselves were trying to summon this evil to rid them of their quarrelsome neighbors once and for all. We may never know. However, one thing we do know. Death stalked the landscape of Northern Ireland in the 1970s.
Glugulegg-Jeffrey, we hope you accept this offering.
Accept, please, sir.
Dude, that's awesome. That's so spooky.
Yeah.
It's so spooky. Oh, man. Well, shit. I'm going to have to follow that up.
Yeah.
All right. So for my second and my longer, dark and twisted tale, my offering to the great fish-lipped one above, I will take you even further back to December of the year 1803, to the small London suburb of Hammersmith. Well, it was small in 1803. Hammersmith now, whole other story, part of London, Greater London. But I digress.
Yeah.
So jolly old England is locked in the First Napoleonic War, and the icy grip of winter is descending upon the land. And it's in this place, in this distant year, when residents of the tiny hamlet of Hammersmith began to report horrific encounters of a most ghastly nature. Exactly. A tall, moaning apparition, clad all in white, clearly a ghost, he had a ghost costume on, began to be spotted by travelers near the village, accosting them by the roadside, scaring them, and occasionally, if the rumors are to be believed, occasionally physically accosting them. He was corporeal in form. Now, as more and more sightings of this Hammersmith ghost began piling up, because he's all over the place all of a sudden, you know? Over the ensuing weeks, this guy's just everywhere. And it was a guy. It was big, you know? As the ghost began piling up, it started to be noticed that there were certain themes here, right? He was usually cropping up on the roads leading into and out of town, scaring travelers. It was often after the clock or the church bells of St. Paul's Church, the local church, rang out for the 1 a.m. hour. So these are late night goings on in a time where, sure, you know, we're talking about a London suburb. People are out and about, but it's late. 1 a.m.'s late.
Yep.
Now, in one famed instance, a coachman driving an 8-horse team pulling 16 passengers was so frightened when the apparition darted out into the road in front of him that he leapt from his cart and ran off into the woods screaming on foot, leaving all of his passengers to their fate at the hands of the specter, who apparently just himself disappeared. And that was the end of that. But people on board, they said they saw him. Perhaps even spookier, an unnamed woman who was reportedly with child was reported to have encountered the ghost near the church graveyard one evening while walking home. She claimed to see a looming white figure rising from between the gravestones and reaching out to her all dressed in white, which sent her basically into a near catatonic state. She fled and was found huddled up in the cold a block away by some neighbors who brought her home and put her to bed, though apparently she died later of fright.
Ooh.
I know.
Very
Now,
scary.
folks in 1803, they might have seen the world a little differently than we do, sure, right? But they were not inherently less savvy or intelligent than we are. Many began to suspect, as you yourself have no doubt begun to, that there was perhaps a more mundane explanation for all of this. Namely, probably some weirdo was dressing up in white sheets and just trying to deliberately freak folks out. Now, because things had started to
Getting
get a little
his jollies
serious,
off, yeah.
he's getting his jollies. There's a weirdo out there
He's
who's
baiting underneath that
yeah,
sheet.
he might be dicking balls out under there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
he's been getting off on trying to spook people. So, this being 1803, now I said that they were not inherently less savvy. What they are is probably just more violent on average.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
their solution to that is well, everybody get your fucking guns. We're gonna catch this fucker and fuck him up. We're gonna get this guy because nobody spooks me in my town. Get my 6-shooter. You know, although they were probably 1803, they were probably still using muzzle loaders back then. I digress. Hopefully, the great fish-mouthed god isn't looking for historical accuracy.
Yeah.
So armed patrols began walking the streets at night with clubs and knives and pistols, hoping to catch this prankster and give him what for. However, Hammersmith and the surrounding area was, at the time, such a maze of paths and roads, and there were so many ways into and out of town that it was a really difficult task that they'd set out for themselves. It was going to be tough you couldn't block all the exits, and it just wasn't feasible for them to try to catch this guy. So a month goes by, January 3rd, 1804, just 3 days into the new year, and there's a startling new development in the case of the Hammersmith ghost. A local bricklayer, a guy named Thomas Millwood, left his house late one evening, dressed in the clothes of his trade, namely all white trousers, a white wool waistcoat, a white apron, and white shoes, which were all apparently either new or extremely well laundered. Shouts out to whoever washed his clothes, because they were quite white. Mm-hmm. Now, bricklayers at the time would often get covered in white dust and smudges of mortar, and so the all-white getup kind of helped not only identify them, and it was like their little guild costume, but it was practical. It helped mask the muss and fuss of their job, and so they looked clean. However, one unfortunate side effect that you may have guessed of this all-white getup is that they would also make a big, strong fellow like Thomas Millwood resemble a certain local ghost who had been seen dressed all in white. In fact, they knew that this would happen because it had happened to him twice already in the past month. People had freaked out thinking he was the ghost, and he almost got himself into trouble. He's not a ghost. He's just a bricklayer wearing a bricklayer's all-white costume during a period of time when a guy dressed in white is terrorizing people. So I can understand why he wouldn't want to change, But his family reportedly had begged him and said, "Hey, Tom, can you, at least while you're out and about, put, a big overcoat on or something?" To which I can only imagine he said, "Fuck off!"
Fuck off!
Because he didn't do it.
Yeah.
However, as we all know, as the adage goes, the third time's the charm. And so on the night of January 3rd, all in white, not learning his lesson, he's strolling down Black Lion Lane, good name for a street.
Yeah.
Thomas Millwood comes upon a frightened customs agent named Francis Smith, who is a member of one of these armed patrols out looking for the ghost. Now, Smith sees him first, and he's startled. He's spooked. He's like, fuck, the moment we've all been waiting for. He yells out, and he's like, "You there? You there? Halt, I say." And he calls out a couple times, and Thomas Millwood, who obviously knows a bitch when he hears one, doesn't stop walking. And he's like, keeps on his way. Smith reads this as threatening behavior. He pops out, and he fucking fires a shot. Thomas Millwood goes down, and Smith runs up, and he's like, "Oh, no, I shot a guy. That's just a guy. It's a guy in white. I've shot a man." And so he runs off to get help.
More troubles.
Finds a constable, and basically says, "I shot someone," and is promptly taken in for questioning.
Yeah.
And the coroner is dispatched to this dark lane on Black Lion Lane, and finds the body dead, fully dead. The bullet, you see, unluckily enough, had struck Thomas Millwood right in the mouth, flown through and up and out the back of his head, and killed him instantly.
That probably severed his brainstem.
Yeah. So the coroner says, that's pretty cut and dry. That's a murder. This guy just said he shot a guy. This guy's shot and dead. Yeah, he's done a murder. So he recommends that Francis Smith go to trial for murder. Now, I'm not going to bore you with an explanation of English law. I certainly wouldn't be qualified to give it. I find it confusing enough now. I read into a little bit about it with this, and then forget English law in 1803, which was different. But suffice it to say that things worked a little differently. So the judges who were hearing the case made it clear to the jury that Smith, while perhaps sympathetic, because he clearly didn't mean to murder a guy, was by all accounts guilty of carrying out a murder. He had shot a man, admitted to shooting him. The man was dead. That's murder, right?
Yeah.
And
what murder?
Right. What murder?
He was the best guy around. What matter?
So he did kill this guy, and even though he thought he had a good reason to fire the shot, clearly he didn't.
I mean, did we just ice this dude in
this
cold
dude
blood
wasn't.
in the
He just gassed this guy in the fucking street, and he wasn't a ghost. I mean, he is now, but he wasn't then. And so that's that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the jury came back with a guilty verdict, but they had tried to suggest manslaughter because clearly it was an accident. And the judge refused to allow that. They said there's no legal precedent that would allow me to accept this willing, knowledgeable admission of intentionally firing a gun and killing someone as an accidental death. Mm-hmm. He saw a guy coming, he fired a shot, and he killed him. And then I was thinking, yeah, but he thought he was a ghost. And the judge is like, that's super dumb. So
shouldn't have thought that.
He shouldn't have thought that. That's a dumb thing to think.
Yeah.
That's murder. So they ended up calling it murder, and he was imprisoned. However, this became this was a public sensation, and there was a lot of public support for Francis Smith. So people are basically crying out like, hey, man, this guy's not... Come on. Like, we all believe in ghosts. Let's be real, dude. You saw a freaky white guy running at you in the night? You know what you'd do. If you had a gun, you'd probably pop him. He was obviously spooked, and he did something stupid. And so eventually he is pardoned by the Crown with the condition that he serve out 1 year of imprisonment, and then he's good to go. Now, the publicity surrounding the case, as this is all going on, it reaches a local shoemaker in Hammersmith named John Graham, who realizes, okay, things have gone on long enough. The jig is up. And he steps forward and says, I'm the Hammersmith ghost. Now, he apparently started doing this as a way to scare and punish his apprentices for telling him scary ghost stories. Telling his children scary ghost stories and keeping them up at night. So John Graham wasn't getting any sleep, so he's like, fuck them, I'll show them a scary ghost story. So he dressed up like a ghost, but it doesn't really explain why he did it for like a month to like a bunch of strangers. So he was obviously a weirdo. If he really was doing it, this was a sex thing.
Yeah.
Willing to bet it all that this was a sex thing.
He was busting ropes in that ghost costume.
Yeah, he wasn't dressed in white. He actually wasn't wearing anything. That was just all his seed.
Yeah.
He was cloaked in the liquid passions of his hobby.
Of his penis.
So, this, you would think that this whole thing playing out the way that it did would kind of put an end to the rumor of the Hammersmith ghost. But do you remember when I said that people back then weren't like dumber than they are now? They might have been, because like people kept saying, "I saw the ghost. I've seen him, the Hammersmith ghost." And I was like, "Man, it was remember that there's not a fucking ghost." Nah,
it was Jack and John Graham, dude.
They thought there was.
He just found a new way to get his fucking jollies off, man.
Jack and John Graham, dude. Oh man. The cock-tugging cobbler. So they although actually a cobbler repairs shoes. It is different than someone who makes shoes. I learned that recently. A cobbler is not necessarily a shoemaker. So here I am, egg on my face. So the Hammersmith ghost continues to be reported and cited up until around 1830 when Spring-Heel Jack takes over as the sort of popular ghost of the day. You can go back and listen to our Jack the Ripper episodes where we talk a little bit about the Spring-Heel Jack phenomenon and how that was tied in with those murders. Famously, one sort of after effect of this case is that it did highlight to people that English law at the time did not really provide for scenarios like this where self-defense was enacted based on an earnestly held belief, i.e., he's a ghost. That later proved to be untrue, but were earnestly believed at the moment of acting. So it was not until 1983 in a case called R versus Williams where a precedent was finally set that allowed that a defendant's beliefs, if held in earnest, and even if they seemed ludicrous to the jury, could still be used as a viable defense should someone be tried in a similar fashion. Now, we also, I think, have similar provisions for this. And I think that oftentimes this gets sort of roped into like a temporary insanity or an insanity defense. But the idea being like, look, man, the human mind is confusing, and sometimes a person will be confronted with something.
Sometimes a big white bloke needs to eat one.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes you gotta fucking gack the ghost, dude. Yeah. And then you find out, it was just a fellow who happened to be wearing white. Sure.
Yeah.
But in moments of mass hysteria, people might find themselves believing things that to the general public might seem kind of ludicrous. But if they are acting under those sincerely held beliefs, that is a viable legal defense. And so it has had a lasting impact on the legal code of the United Kingdom to this day. And some would say, including multiple of the sources I read who said exactly this, that was finally when the Hammersmith ghost was put to rest.
Nice.
So that's my spooky story there.
Okay, cool. Sick. right. We're gonna go to our fourth story here. It's a little bit different than the other ones, but I wanted to take a look at go back to the beautiful land of Persia, the Iranian landscape, and kind of look at just the way that sort of like these autumnal festivals also, while being very, very different, still you can still see some through lines to ancient cultures. Obviously Halloween kind of comes, it's not really like a harvest festival, but there's a lot of like harvest flair to it. The colors,
We've incorporated, the corn, the pumpkins.
Yeah, and sort of this whole idea of the last harvest before the long death of winter and the rebirth of spring.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the autumnal festival of Mithra. Now, as I said, while this festival of Mithra that I want to talk about does not quite align with Halloween, it is still an autumnal festival after the harvest, and so I do still want to relate the way people celebrate the changing of the seasons now to how they related to them thousands of years ago. So I'm handing it back to my boy Payam Nabars in his wonderful book, The Mysteries of Mithra, once again. Now,
dude, Payam Nabars.
Yeah, Payam, yeah, the dervish, yeah. He's also a druid and like into all these things. He's fucking really into this shit, and like an actual professor too.
Yeah.
But
and he's got a vibe for sure.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. So our true blue dyed-in-the-wool fans will recognize his name from the Ancient Mysteries series. And his book really is a treat to read. It's not one of those stuffy academic books that I have to occasionally read for the show. This one really snaps along. Nabars has an excellent writing style. It's easy to digest, fun to read. I really can't recommend it enough. Now, Mithras, being a cosmic deity, obviously also has festivals related to the equinoxes of the seasons. The autumn equinox celebrations start right at the beginning of autumn at the very end of September. The sunset of the equinox on, or about September 21st, with the waning of the barley moon and the end of the harvest. This is a time of balance, or equilibrium. The day and night are at an equilibrium, light and darkness the same length. The arrows of light were fired at the spring equinox, reached to their zenith at the summer solstice, and now come home to Earth. Descriptions of the rites still exist today in pagan, druidic, and magical customs, such as Thelema, Wicca, Druidry, and of course modern Mithra worship. Viewing the Earth in the old world concept of a flat Earth, the Earth was surrounded on all sides by water, and the water to the west was where the sun retired at the end of the day to be reborn in the waters of the east. The west is also the land of the dead. As the days grow shorter, the land of the dead starts encroaching on the land of the living. The autumnal equinox is therefore associated with water. This is also when, in the Eleusinian mysteries, the initiates were shown an ear of grain, and told, in silence is the seed of wisdom gained. Yes. Now, in Mithra worship, the Persian month of Mer, sun god, Mithra, marks the beginning of the autumn equinox, followed by the month of Anahita, Aban, the sea goddess. This is similar to the Celtic child of eternal light, Mabon, who hides in the sea and must rise later. The Feast of Mithra was one of the most popular of the festivals of ancient Iran, and was celebrated with great fervor. It is an old festival, pre-Zoroastrian, and of old Aryan nature, and had ties to the Babylonian month of Tishritu, the patron of which was also the Babylonian sun god Shamash. Greek sources mention that the kings would dress in purple, dance and drink, this being the only time they could get drunk in public. This part should seem familiar to us. Kings would wear a crown shaped like a sun, and actors would wear masks while music played. On Mer Day, people would be given their souls, and the earth would expand to give land for the growing population. The moon, an object of coldness and darkness, was given light from the sun on this day and began illuminating at night. Now, for modern-day Zoroastrian practitioners, because some of you may not realize this, there are still people that practice Zoroastrianism. That's still a primary religion. One very famous person is Freddie Mercury. He was born into a Zoroastrian practicing family. But for modern day Zoroastrians, this celebration is still observed. People will wear these new clothes and put together a decorative, colorful table. Sweets, fruits, especially apples and pomegranates, vegetables, flowers, almonds, pistachio, and sweet-smelling concoctions are all arranged on the tables. A burner is also placed on the table for frankincense and rue seeds to be thrown into the flames. The ceremony begins at lunchtime, and everyone gathers in front of a mirror to pray, drink sherbet, and then throw sugar plums, marjoram, and senjed seeds over each other's heads while they embrace.
Dude, I didn't know sugar plums were a real thing.
Yeah, sugar plums, yep. In some villages in Yazid, Zoroastrians will sacrifice sheep for Mare. A special ritual is enacted. The sheep is barbecued. And then the sheep is taken to the fire temple, where the fat then is added to the fire to increase the flames, and the participants pray. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted to quickly look at this festival to show how much people have changed over the years, and yet still how much you can recognize in this autumnal festival from thousands of years ago across the world to what people here in the West still celebrate to this day.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. It's so funny to see like how much seems recognizable in like a lot of these old festivals.
Yeah.
You realize like a lot of our current stuff is just like repurposed
Yeah.
pagan stuff of like really ancient extraction,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like all of the like equinox festivals, obviously, you have, or like the autumnal festivals, especially the spring ones as well. Yeah, and then the Christmas. We just don't really have any summer ones, It's not really summer
I'm trying
holidays.
to think. Like they do Midsummer still in
Midsummer,
Scandinavia, which unrelated to the shocking film is like a pretty chill, nice seeming festival. But yeah, what would our summer one be?
I mean, we just have July 4th.
Yeah. Have you ever seen?
Getting drunk and blowing our fucking fingers up, boy.
Have you ever seen the old pre pumpkin jack-o'-lanterns made out of turnips?
No.
The ghost turnips. There's a famous photo of them online. They're pretty spooky. Turnips definitely make a
Ghost turnip?
scarier. Yeah, dude, look up the ghost turnip. It looks like you.
What the fuck?
Yeah, them giving it teeth is like way worse. Like how they gave it like a grimace, but there's no eyeballs in there. It's just So anyway, that's if we still carved those, that shit would be way scarier.
Dude, oh my god, that's
Well,
awesome.
those were great.
Yeah, freaky little motherfuckers.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was great.
Sure was. Boy, am I spooked. I feel like we've done well enough to earn our lives.
Yeah. And maybe even some sort of role as like subservient concubines to the new unholy priestess rulers of Glugulegg-Jeffrey's slurptacular New World Order. Speaking of that, speaking of things that we've earned, it's possible, after listening to this, if we're still alive, that we've maybe earned a contribution to our Patreon. Or at least that you take a look at it and decide for yourselves. If you're interested in taking that quick look, we are at www.patreon.com/leftunread. Now, there are multiple tiers that you can choose from. You can also make up your own, whatever's agreeable to you. To those of you who are already members of the Patreon, we appreciate you immensely. To those of you who are considering signing up, thank you in advance. And that is, of course, the most tangible way to support our efforts. We are still a grassroots show, so all that really does is buy us books, helps pay to host the show. We're not making a ton of money. I think you can see what we make on there. So, it's small potatoes. So if you're able to help, we appreciate it immensely. That being said, that is...
I do just want to real quick, we do like to shout out when we get new subscribers. So this one, so usually we'll just use first names, whatever, or part of the screen name that you use. So I do this one. I loved seeing this one. You know why? Because I believe this may be a person of the beautiful country of Portugal, or the
Oh,
diaspora, much like myself.
Nice.
So I want to thank our new member, Saudade, which I believe is a reference there to the
Saudade?
somber, the Portuguese somberness. So thank you very much for signing up. We really appreciate that.
Hell yeah. Dude, I bet it's your mom.
It's definitely not my mom. Yeah, it's 100. My mom would not listen to this shit. Are you kidding me, bro? My mom would
That's
listen
like
to 5
honestly
minutes
the best
and
argument
just
you
be
could have
like,
made for it not being like
yeah.
having her.
Yeah, my mom would listen to 5 minutes of this and be like, the fuck.
What is wrong with this boy? I knew
My
he should
only
have stopped
son.
hanging out with that kid when he walked through the screen door,
The
dude.
fucking screen door.
I fucking knew.
He's kept the party going.
That actually, speaking of that, not the screen door, but we should also note that if you're on an Apple product, please do not use the Patreon app to sign up for Patreon. They charge a surcharge. It's dog shit. We don't support that. We don't believe in that. So just go to the URL on your browser, on your phone, or if you're not on an Apple product, go right ahead and use the app. I think that's fine. Moving on from that, we did mention the email at the top of the show. You can send us any requests or information, or you can argue with us, whatever you really want. leftunreadpod@gmail.com. You can also, if you want to support us in less material ways, there is always the good old like, rate, review, share on your podcast app of choice or apps of choice. That helps us get boosted in the algorithm. You can follow us on Twitter, the
Instagram,
website
yeah.
for Instagram, all that shit, and we put all that stuff in the episode notes. So, yeah, that is a great place to start. And any and all ways of material or moral support that you're able to offer, we greatly appreciate. And to those of you who have been listening and continue to listen, we love you and thank you so very much for that.
Yep. Yeah. So, also we spread by word of mouth. So if you can't support us by any of these other ways, just tell your family, tell your friends about us. Tell if you're trapped in the dungeon of Glugulegg-Jeffrey or one of his other arcane old gods, the old ones, and you see a little slimy bastard in there with you, just be like
An
hey,
imp or a familiar.
Yeah, an imp, a familiar, some kind of fey creature. Just let them know, hey, if you get out of here, why don't you pull out your little phone there, your little Google Pixel or whatever.
Yeah, they would use alternative third-party phones for
Their
sure.
Huawei phone, dude.
Their Huawei. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
The Google Pixel. That's the
Yeah. Yeah, and then
I
and
say
tell
as
them-
my phone's been like spraying fucking pheromones into my face every night
Yeah.
while I sleep to get me to
Yeah.
want to buy a MacBook.
Yeah. Anyway, tell them to give Left Unread Pod a listen.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So, listen, ladies. We totally regret breaking up with you girls, and might I just say that in this eerie kind of a chartreuse lighting, in the shimmering light of these unholy flames, you girls look positively wait, ladies, wait, where did you go?
Evan, it's Sarah Ann. She's
what? Don't fucking interrupt me, man. I was just saying. Oh no, Cam, it's Rosie. She's right behind me, isn't she?
All hail Glugulegg-Jeffrey.
This offering pleases us. Let the age of slurping commence.
All hail Glugulegg-Jeffrey.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween.
Here, let's take that again. I can edit them to be closer together, but we did weird hesitations there. So ready? We'll do 3, 2, 1. She's right
behind me. Isn't she?
Oh my god, it's hard. I think the latency when we record is what's hard.
Yeah.
It's fine. Hey, happy Halloween, everybody.
Yeah. Peace.